Laughing Jack, the friend you never wanted, Part 1. I should have thrown the box away the day I found it. It was left on my porch in early spring. A toy chest, about the size of a microwave, painted white with flaking stripes of faded rainbow. It smelled faintly of sugar, like cotton candy left out in the rain. There was no note, no delivery slip, no sign of who had dropped it off. Inside, nothing. Empty, except for a single crumpled candy wrapper. I told myself it was a prank. I left it by the trash bins. The next morning, it was back on the porch. This time, it wasn't empty. A balloon leaned against the inside wall, deflated, gray, tied with a string that had been knotted too tight. When I picked it up, I noticed something else at the bottom. Another wrapper, bright red, sticky with half-dried sugar. And underneath, written in childlike scrawl on the wooden floor of the chest. Wanna play? I live alone. No kids. No neighbors close enough to pull this off as a joke. So when I saw the handwriting, small and awkward like a child's, my first thought wasn't prank. It was trespasser. That night, I dragged the box to the curb. The trash collectors came the next morning. I watched them dump it into the truck. I watched it crush beneath the metal press. I watched the candy wrappers flutter into the street like confetti. I thought that was the end of it. The following night, I woke to a sound in the kitchen. Balloons. The faint, rubbery squeal of one dragging against drywall. I froze in bed, heart slamming. The sound came again. Squee, like a hand smearing a balloon across the counter. Then the pop of static. Then a laugh. Not a big laugh. Not full or human. The kind of giggle you hear from a child trying to hold it back. I forced myself up, grabbed the bat I keep under the bed, and crept down the hall. The kitchen was dark, but the smell hit me instantly. Sweet, overwhelming, like caramel burning on a stove. On the counter sat a balloon, black, inflated, tied tight, a smiley face drawn in Sharpie. I didn't draw it. When I poked it with the bat, it burst with a sound too sharp, too high-pitched, like glass cracking. And when it popped, something spilled out. Not air, not confetti, candy wrappers, a dozen of them, all licked clean. The next day, I bought cameras. One for the kitchen, one for the hallway, one for my bedroom door. I told myself this was rational. Document it, catch whoever was breaking in, end the nightmare. That night, I went to bed early. I left the lights on. I stared at the red glow of the recording light until my eyes burned. At 2:33 a.m., I woke to the sound of balloons rubbing against each other. I didn't move. I let the camera do the watching. In the morning, I reviewed the footage. The kitchen camera showed nothing at first. Just the fridge humming, the microwave clock blinking 2 o'clock. Then, without warning, a balloon rose into frame. Black, hadn't rolled in. It rose steady, as if pulled by a hand too short for the lens. Another balloon followed, then another. 3 in total, bobbing slightly, strings taut. And then they parted. Behind them, something leaned into the corner of the frame. A face, white, porcelain-like, painted with wide black lips and a nose smeared crimson. Eyes too wide, too glassy, unblinking. It grinned into the camera. Then the feed cut to static. When it came back, the kitchen was empty. But the candy wrappers were back. I didn't sleep the next night. I stayed awake, glued to the monitor. I whispered to myself that it wasn't real, it couldn't be. Just a trick of the camera. At 2:45, the audio feed picked up something. A voice, childlike, high-pitched, but strained, as if it had been waiting too long in the dark. "Hiya, friend. Wanna play?" I unplugged the camera. I left the lights on. I curled up on the couch and pretended morning would fix it. Didn't. That morning, I found the toy chest back on my porch. Not crushed, not broken, perfect. Inside, 3 new balloons. Red this time, each tied with black string, each with a name written on it. The first, Mom. The second, Dad. The third, my name. I thought about burning it, about smashing it. But some part of me didn't want to touch it again. Instead, I locked the door, closed the blinds, and left for work early. When I came home, The chest was inside the living room. The balloons were floating at the ceiling. And on the wall, written in something sticky and sweet that smelled of sugar and rot, "You're my best friend now." That was the first week. By the second, I'd stopped eating. I'd stopped sleeping. Every night, the balloons came back. Every night, the laughter slipped through the vents. Sometimes it was playful, like a child hiding under blankets. Sometimes it was guttural, mean, stretched too long. And sometimes it came from right behind me. I turn. Nothing there. Just wrappers crinkling on the floor, spelling things out like breadcrumbs. Play, friend, forever. Neighbors started asking questions. They said they saw balloons tied to my mailbox, that they heard carnival music faintly at night, even though the nearest fairground was 3 towns away. One neighbor swore she saw me standing in the yard at 3 a.m., head tilted, smiling too wide, holding a balloon in each hand. I didn't tell her I'd been asleep at the time. The worst part wasn't the balloons. It wasn't the laughter. It wasn't even the toy chest. It was the voice. Because by the end of the second week, it wasn't just him speaking. It was me. I'd wake up with my throat raw, my lips sticky with sugar, my pillow covered in candy wrappers. And in the dark, half asleep, I'd hear my own voice whispering in rhythm with his. "Hiya, friend. Hiya, friend. Wanna play? Wanna play?" That's when I started keeping a journal. That's what you're hearing now. Because if you're listening, if you're reading, it means the chest is already on your porch. It always finds a new friend. And Laughing Jack never plays alone. Laughing Jack, the friend you never wanted, Part 2. I thought I was going mad. When the candy wrappers spelled words, I swept them into the trash. When the balloons appeared, I popped them. When the laughter slid through the vents, I buried my ears under pillows until my head throbbed. But ignoring him didn't make him go away. It made him bolder. The journal. The first real proof came when I reviewed my own handwriting. I'd kept a journal, scribbling half-coherent notes between nightmares. On April 3rd, I wrote,
2:14 Uhr nachts.
Laughter again. Sounds closer.
Closet doorkriekt.
I didn't open it. On April 4th,
2:45 Uhr nachts.
he whispered my name. Not in my head. Out loud. I know my own acoustics. Someone was in the room with me. But then, on April 5th, a new entry appeared. Written in messy, jagged block letters that weren't mine. "We're friends now. Don't tell." The ink had bled through the page. And underneath, pressed into the paper hard enough to tear it, a crude drawing of a clown. Long arms, strings in both hands, and me sketched as a stick figure dangling from them. I didn't draw it. The neighbor's kid. A week later, I caught Mrs. Anders from next door staring at my porch. She looked pale, her hands gripping her daughter's shoulders too tightly. The little girl, maybe 6, was holding something. A balloon, black, tied with a string. "Where did you get that?" I asked. The girl smiled too wide, like a doll with its mouth painted wrong. "My friend gave it to me." Her mother yanked the balloon away, tied the string around her wrist to keep her daughter from clutching it back. She muttered an apology and dragged her inside. That night, I found the balloon floating in my hallway. Written across it in white marker, "Share your friends." The recordings. I stopped trusting my eyes. I needed proof. I set up my cameras again, this time with motion-activated recording. The first night, nothing but static. The second night, the footage triggered at 2:32 a.m. The frame showed my living room, balloons rising into frame one by one, until there were 6, their strings swaying as though held by invisible hands. Then, faintly, a figure stepped between them, tall, spindly, striped arms stretching outward like wings, a grin glowing too bright for the shadows. And then, the balloons burst. All at once, in a spray of confetti and candy wrappers. The camera feed cut to black. When it returned, the toy chest was back in the center of the room. Inside, my journal, open to the page with the clown drawing. Except now there was a second stick figure added. A child. My neighbor's daughter. It didn't stop with balloons and wrappers. The block went quiet. Dogs stopped barking at night. Cats that once prowled the alleys never came home. Flyers cropped up on telephone poles. Missing Tabby, answers to mittens. Last seen March 28th. One night, I followed the sound of laughter into my yard. I saw a trail of candy wrappers leading to the hedge. I forced myself to look. Behind the hedge, in a shallow pit, were bones. Small, fragile, licked clean. A single balloon string was tied around one of them. When I backed away, a voice whispered through the dark, "Tasty snack. More room for you, friend." The child's drawing. The next day, Mrs. Anders knocked on my door. Her hands trembled as she shoved a crumpled paper at me. It was a drawing, crayon on cheap lined paper. Her daughter had drawn herself holding hands with a tall, striped figure. Black arms, long fingers, face painted white with a wide black grin. Beside him floated balloons, each with names written on them. Hers, mine, and one more I didn't recognize. I asked her who it was. Mrs. Anders whispered. She said his name is Jack, Laughing Jack. She said he told her you're his best friend, but she can be second. Her eyes brimmed with tears. She wakes up with candy on her pillow, candy we didn't buy. She says he sings to her. What does he sing? I asked. She swallowed hard. Circus music, like a calliope, but slowed down. Wrong. The baby monitor. That night, I borrowed her baby monitor. I set it up in my living room, the camera aimed at the toy chest. At 2:41 a.m., the audio crackled. A voice, high-pitched, giggling, dragging syllables too long. Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. Jack play games and make you sick. Then the sound of wrappers crinkling, balloons squeaking, and another voice, smaller, younger, my neighbor's daughter. He says you're scared. I froze, heart hammering. She was in her own house. She couldn't be here, but the baby monitor showed movement. A balloon bobbing into frame, a hand following, long white, grinning face half in shadow. The voice whispered again, "Don't tell Mommy, we're having fun." The confirmed cases. I started digging. Online, the name Laughing Jack appeared in dozens of threads. Parents posting about imaginary friends who left candy wrappers. Balloons tied to beds. Laughter caught faintly on baby monitors. One thread showed a video. A birthday party in someone's backyard. Kids laughed, clowns performed, parents filmed. But in the corner of the frame, a tall figure leaned against the fence. White face, black grin, not part of the act. No one at the party remembered seeing him. Another post described a boy who vanished after weeks of talking about his striped friend. His last drawing was of himself inside a toy chest, smiling. The police wrote it off as abduction. The thread was deleted within hours, but I'd seen too much to dismiss it. Laughing Jack wasn't a story anymore. He was a pattern, and patterns repeat. The breaking point. On the 10th night, I woke to the sound of balloons rubbing against each other. I refused to move. Then came the candy wrappers, crinkling across the floor. Then the giggle right by my bed. I opened my eyes. He was there, tall, painted white face looming over me, striped arms stretching across the walls, too long, bending wrong. Balloons floating around his head like a crown. His grin opened wide enough to split, and in one hand, dangling by a string, was a balloon with my name written on it. He whispered, sweet and playful, like a child inviting me to a game. Best friends forever. That's when I stopped writing for myself. That's when I started writing for you. Because if you're hearing this, it means Jack is already looking for his next friend. And if you find a balloon with your name on it, don't pop it. Don't touch it. Don't look up when you hear the giggle. Because Laughing Jack never plays alone. Laughing Jack, the friend you never wanted. Part 3 conclusion. I thought I could contain him. I thought if I ignored the toy chest, if I trashed the balloons, if I shut off the monitors and cameras, it would stop. Monsters, after all, are supposed to live in the dark. Not in the flicker of LED lights, not in data saved to SD cards. But Laughing Jack doesn't care if you see him. In fact, he loves it. Because once you've seen him, you're already playing. The neighbor's disappearance. The Anders family left suddenly. One night, the curtains were drawn. The next, the windows were bare and the house stood hollow. A U-Haul had sat in their driveway all morning, but no one in the neighborhood saw them loading it.
No movers. No shouting. No footsteps.
Just silence. When I crept close to look, the driveway was littered with candy wrappers. Not brands you could buy. Faded logos, paper worn soft like they'd been in pockets for decades. A single balloon string trailed up into the branches of the oak tree above the house. At the end of it was a balloon half deflated, sagging, but still floating. Written across it in smudged black letters, "By friend." No forwarding address was left. No school records transferred. It was as if the family had evaporated. That night, I woke to my baby monitor hissing static. Through it, faint and muffled, I heard a child's voice I recognized, Mrs. Anders' daughter, whispering, "He said you're next." The investigator. I wasn't the only one who noticed. A man reached out to me through an old forum, said he'd seen my posts and wanted to meet. He called himself Keller. We met in a diner. He was in his 50s, hard-edged, eyes that looked like they'd seen too many dead ends. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were photocopies of police reports dating back to the 1960s. Cases marked unfounded or juvenile fabrication. Kids describing a striped man with balloons. Parents reporting laughter through walls. Families moving suddenly with no explanation. "You see it, don't you?" Keller said. "The pattern." I nodded. They don't investigate because it's easier to call it fiction. No one wants to admit something like this keeps happening. If it's a ghost, fine. If it's a psycho, fine. But this, he tapped the folder. This is an idea that eats families. "Why me?" I asked. "Because you wrote it down. That's how he grows. He's not just a story. He's a game. And once you play, you don't get to quit." The final recording. Keller gave me a flash drive. "You'll want to hear this." It was a recording from a baby monitor dated 2 years earlier. A boy's voice whispered, frightened, calling for his mom. Then the sound of balloons rubbing against each other. Then the giggle. Then a second voice, higher, playful sing-song. "Don't worry, buddy. Mommy's playing too. She's in the box." A scraping sound. A lid closing. A child's scream muffled under laughter. The file ended. Keller's voice cracked as he said, "That boy's family moved the next day. No record since." The climax. That night I destroyed the toy chest. Or tried to. I dragged it into the yard, soaked it with lighter fluid, and set it ablaze. The wood hissed. The rainbow paint bubbled. The flames licked high into the air. For a moment I thought it worked. I thought I'd won. Then the fire burst in a shower of sparks, exploding outward like fireworks. Balloons, dozens of them, red, black, white, rising into the night sky, strings trailing. And as they floated up, the laughter came. Not faint, not muffled, not behind walls. Everywhere, surrounding me, inside me, a high-pitched chorus, playful and cruel. He, best friends forever. He. I ran inside, slammed the door, locked every bolt. But when I turned, the living room was full. Balloons brushed against the ceiling. Wrappers crunched underfoot. The walls pulsed faintly, breathing in rhythm with the laughter. And in the center, rising from the shadows of the toy chest that should have been ashes, he stood. Tall, striped, painted face cracked into a grin. Fingers like marionette strings reaching toward me. "Don't be scared," he whispered. "This is the fun part." I swung the bat, passed through him like smoke. The balloons swayed, mocking. He giggled long and jagged. And then the lights went out. The police report. I woke in the hospital. They said a neighbor found me collapsed on my porch, unconscious, with dozens of balloons tied to the railing.
No toy chest. No wrappers.
No evidence. The police wrote it up as exhaustion, stress, self-inflicted hysteria. But when they handed me my personal belongings, one thing wasn't mine. A balloon, deflated, black, with Keller's name written on it. the thread. Weeks later, I saw the name Laughing Jack trending online. A TikTok compilation. Imaginary friend horror stories. Most fake. All for views. But buried in the comments was a link to a private Discord. Inside were photos, children's drawings, recordings of giggles, threads of parents whispering about balloons and candy wrappers showing up where they shouldn't. And then, at 2 a.m. Universal Time Coordinated, the server posted a message automatically. Hiya, friend. Wanna play? Followed by hundreds of profile pictures glitching into the same image. A striped figure grinning too wide, balloons in both hands. My screen froze, my speakers hissed static. And through them, faint but unmistakable, came the laugh. Conclusion: Laughing Jack isn't an urban legend. He's a parasite, an idea that finds kids, finds lonely people, finds you. He worms his way in with candy and balloons and laughter until you can't tell what's real anymore. You can burn the chest. You can pop the balloons. You can move houses, change names, run until your lungs collapse. But you can't quit the game. Because once you've heard him, once you've laughed with him, even once, you're his friend forever. And friends don't leave. So if you ever wake to balloons squeaking in the dark, if you ever find candy wrappers on your floor, if you ever hear a child's giggle where no child should be, don't look, don't listen, don't answer, because the moment you do, he'll whisper right into your ear, close enough to taste sugar on his breath. Best friends forever.